Did the old prophets actually meet angels on top of mountains? Or were they highly intelligent beings from a galaxy far, far away? Today, we're taking a look at 3 well-known sightings of UFOs. Because let's face it, we're not alone, and the evidence is everywhere.
In this video, we'll take a closer look at the rulers of ancient Egypt, the Pharaohs, and whether they were aliens. Various archaeological findings have led to speculation about the true nature of these Egyptian rulers and their numerous accomplishments. Were they human or something else? If you're excited to know more, let's get right into the video. Zep-Tepi, the first time. To start, let's have a look at the Egyptian creation myth. It's rather long, so I'll summarize it. They called it the Zep-Tepi, also known as the Golden Age, or the first time. It's about the origin of their people, and the legend says the gods emerged from the primordial sea in eggs. Certain retellings of the myth also replace the eggs with boats. Sounds familiar, doesn't it? Almost as if the gods arrived from space, sailing on a dark sea of stars in their egg-shaped boats. According to British Egyptologist Rundle T. Clark, these gods were the first pharaohs of Egypt. They established the basic principles of the world. These include rituals, natural phenomena, hieroglyphic writing, their calendar, and many other aspects of life. This era was a long period of peace and prosperity before rage, or clamor, or strife, or uproar had come about. On one hand, it could be a mythological explanation for how Egyptian society came to exist, but who's to say these gods that came from the sky weren't advanced alien beings? They do fit the criteria. Modern vehicles depicted on hieroglyphs. Another interesting find would be the hieroglyphics in Pharaoh Setil's tomb. They seem to depict modern or even futuristic vehicles. His tomb, located in Abydos, Egypt, has been the site of much controversy. Amongst all the usual symbols of insects and snakes and other animals, we have these out-of-place vehicles. Here, take a look. These hieroglyphics are 3,000 years old, mind you. They obviously didn't have planes or spacecraft back then, or did they? Called the helicopter hieroglyphics by many conspiracy theorists, these symbols have birthed various theories. It's alleged that their presence in ancient murals means the early Egyptians were familiar with these vehicles. There was no earthly civilization with the means to build such vehicles back then, so the logical answer seems to be aliens. However, others dispute this theory. Skeptics say that ancient Egyptian writings make no mention of such vehicles, nor do they mention anything about visiting aliens. If these were such wondrous sights, they would surely warrant a mention or two. The ancient Egyptians were a proud people and recorded most events. Being visited by extraterrestrials would be something monumental. It's strange that those encounters were relegated cryptically to a small section of hieroglyphics. Still, much of their writing was allegorical. Who's to say the references to sky chariots and eggs aren't talking about alien vehicles? Another proposed explanation for these mysterious markings is typos, like the kind you make when handing in a last-minute essay. Egyptologists say these hieroglyphics were accidentally created. How? By the overlapping of one Egyptian's name over another. It was an issue that happened occasionally in ancient Egypt, since pharaohs have 5 names. Each name began with a specific pictogram, which had to be carved out. Sometimes a builder used the wrong image and had to make do. There were also issues when 2 pharaohs had very similar names or characters. Often, pharaohs would carve over their predecessors' names. It sounds like a plausible explanation, but it's still open for debate. After all, what are the odds of a badly carved hieroglyphic looking exactly like a helicopter or flying aircraft from the far future? Akhenaten's controversy and strange appearance. Aside from these findings, the existence of Pharaoh Akhenaten also fuels speculation. Pharaoh Akhenaten was a controversial figure in ancient Egypt. While other pharaohs worshipped their usual pantheon of gods, Akhenaten was a rebel. He outlawed the polytheistic faith of Egypt. in favor of monotheistic sun worship of the god Aten. It's safe to say many Egyptians hated him, whether common folk or in the palace, and yet he still managed to rule for 17 years before dying, which is quite the feat. Unfortunately, all the changes he made were reverted by subsequent pharaohs. What elevates him from a controversial figure to a potential alien or hybrid is his appearance. Akhenaten looked rather odd, to say the least. Unlike the depictions of other pharaohs, Akhenaten had an elongated skull, long neck, large midsection, and breasts. This seems pretty similar to the stereotypical Western depiction of aliens. Some argue that his odd appearance could be a result of Marfan syndrome, or even being transgender. But if the Egyptian gods were aliens, why would Akhenaten turn against them if he was one himself? Maybe he was from a rival race seeking to usurp their power, or a heretic going against his fellow's established hierarchy. It makes little sense that he chose to harm his power by establishing a new heretical religion, unless he was on a higher mission. Tully Papyrus UFO. Speaking of discoveries, the Tully Papyrus also seems to detail a highly unexplainable UFO encounter. It occurred during the reign of Pharaoh Thutmose III. According to a translation, the king's men encountered a strange circle of fire in the sky. It had no head, but emanated a foul smell from its mouth. The circle was 150 feet long and 150 feet wide, hovering in place. Terrified, the men fell to the ground and ran back to report it to their king, who was troubled. A few days later, they encountered a much larger group of these UFOs, shining brighter than the sun. Soon after, fish and birds began to fall from the sky. These UFOs then took off south before disappearing for good. There are skeptics who dispute these claims, though. The Tully Papyrus isn't a first-hand source. Instead, it's a translation of a modern transcription of the original papyrus, which appears to be missing. This may lead to various inaccuracies in translation. Aside from that, the existence of the original document has only been reported by one individual, Prince Boris de Rachelwitz. Without the original, it becomes impossible to determine its authenticity. It's worth noting, as an extra bit of knowledge, that Thutmose III was the 6th pharaoh of the 18th dynasty. This means he ruled a few generations before Akhenaten, the 10th pharaoh. If you subscribe to the alien pharaohs theory, perhaps the fiery discs were scouts for Akhenaten's rogue faction, or could have been the main alien force checking on their charges. So were the pharaohs extraterrestrials? Or could all of these strange artifacts and occurrences be the work of innovative humans? No one will know for certain. Either way, Egypt is a land full of ancient wonders, many of them mysterious and awe-inspiring. Thanks for watching this video. Make sure to like and comment below if you believe any of the theories about pharaohs being aliens. And be sure to tune in next week.